You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Essential Apple podcast. And I played that, the last post, because it's Remembrance Sunday, and that's in honour of all the fallen everywhere. Thank you very much. Right, on with the show. I have with me, of course, Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Simon. How are we doing on this lovely, lovely Sunday afternoon?
Well, pouring with rain here, but other than that, you know.
Oh, we've had the floods. It's like the only day this week we haven't all been sodden in our small area of the world.
Jolly good. And I have with me and Mark, I have Jeff Gamet, former, was it managing editor at TMO?
Yep. And but not anymore.
No, exactly. Not anymore. So, first of all, I guess we'll start off. Tell us all about that, Jeff. Tell us all about that.
Well, this came as a surprise to a lot of people. When I announced I was leaving the Mac Observer, and yeah, it was a big surprise. But it's also really cool because now I work at Smile, and I'm their text expander evangelist, which is a really cool job. And as we're recording, this has been a week. So I lived through my first week with Smile, and wow, what a bunch of great people. So I'm pretty excited.
Excellent. And I know Kelly Gamet has taken over from you on the daily observations.
Yes, and I'm really happy with that, because when it came time to decide who was going to take over daily observations for me, the first name that came to mind was Kelly Gamet. And so I was really happy when everything worked out so she really could take over the show. And I've been on as a guest, which was fun. And I just love the way that she's taken the show, and instead of just trying to emulate me, she's putting her personality into it. So
right, so it's now an hour-long show then.
But it's a fun show.
No, I'm teasing. Kelly is lovely. She's been on this show a couple of times. Mark always says, I love it when Kelly comes on, because we just say, hello, Kelly, and we just let the recorder run.
You know, isn't it great to have people on that actually have opinions they want to share?
Oh, yes, definitely. No, Kelly
certainly makes your job easier.
It does indeed. We were all quite sad, or I was definitely sad, when originally you said that the Apple Context machine would be no more as you were leaving. But Brian went back on that, didn't he? Reneged.
Brian totally reneged on ending the show. The reason we announced we were ending the show was because when we made that announcement, we seriously, legitimately were ending the show. It just seemed like, with the chemistry that Brian and I had, and just the way the show worked, that replacing me with someone else wasn't going to give people the same show. And it just felt like, you know, that was the time to wrap it up. And we made the announcement, and we started getting all this feedback from people saying, no, please don't stop the show. And so eventually Brian decided, you know, there's enough people that really don't want this show to end. So,
well, you know, got a lot of loyal listeners. You know, it's a good show. It's been going a long time. What was it, 400 and, was it? I forget now.
I want to say, oh, geez.
Was it 470 something?
It was right around there. It's funny because I still have all the show notes on my hard drive. So if I wanted to, I could go and look at the last episode that I was on, the Halloween episode, and give you that episode number. But it was around 470.
Yeah. Did it take you a long time to get out of the cupboard?
You have no idea. Those interns, man.
Oh, well, that's payback. That was payback for all those years of mistreatment.
Totally deserved payback.
Oh dear. Well, I know I haven't actually listened to Brian's first ACM yet. I'm sure it will take him a while to find his feet, but I'm sure it will be a perfectly good continuation of the show.
Yeah, it's he had Jim Tanis on, and Jim he wrote for Mac Observer for a while, and then he started his own site, Tech Review.
Ah, okay.
And so he's doing cross-platform coverage there. And Jim is such a great guy. So it seemed like a really nice first guest, or I don't know. Brian hasn't told me if Jim is his new co-host. So I don't know what the format is going to be there. But what a great way to start that show.
I think we all probably, most of the listeners will know of Smile, makers of PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro, and of course Text Expander. I'm sure most people know about it, but just give us a quick lowdown on what those two tools are for.
Oh, sure. So PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro, those are PDF viewing and editing apps for Mac OS and iOS, and honestly, these are tools that I've been using for years before I started working with Smile. As someone that came out of the graphic design world and had to live with Adobe Acrobat and use it every day, when I discovered PDF Pen Pro, that was it. I that day I stopped using Acrobat and have never used it since. That's how much better it is, I think. And then Text Expander. Now that I'm working with Smile and I'm the Text Expander evangelist, people have been asking me, so exactly what is it and why do you use it? For those people that don't know, what Text Expander does is it lets you automate the stuff that you type and do over and over, so that you don't have to worry about wasting time. And so you can make these little shortcuts, little snippets. And so you type a few letters or characters, and then it automatically expands out into words and phrases with formatting. And you can make forms so that you can type something and then fill in a name and then have it auto generate the rest of an email for you. On a simple level, I use Text Expander every day. Like if I need to give someone my email address or my phone number, I have different email signatures that I use. So I can just have Text Expander pop those in when I need them. And I realized yesterday, as I was thinking about how I'm really using Text Expander, it's my personal assistant for accuracy and efficiency. That's it in a nutshell. All that stuff that I'm doing all the time, which is just so repetitive with typing, Text Expander handles that. I'd be hobbled trying to use my Mac or my iPhone or my iPad or Windows in my virtual machine without Text Expander.
Oh, there you go.
You were just saying before we went on the air that you replaced your SSD, and I think I've had a similar experience where I've set up a new machine. I do think I used to have Text Expander. I need to go and see what happened to that. But you come back to a machine and then you use your shortcuts and you go, oh, it's not working. And it feels so weird when you lose that ability. Like, for example, I type at to give my email address, or at : to give a sign-off to say sincerely, Mark, then give my email address. And just those little things, when you start using them, they become so quickly ingrained. And it's a little bit like training for shortcuts on iOS. Once you remember them, you actually do start thinking, how the hell was I doing any of this before now?
Oh, I know. It's amazing how often someone needs my physical address. So I set up a snippet that has that in it. And now instead of having to type Jeff Gamet and return, and then here's the street address, return, Boulder, Colorado, 80301, blah, 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 and all that. I just type JAD for Jeff address, and it's done. And now someone has my physical address, they have my phone number, they have my social media names, and just boom, it's done. And it's right every single time.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Always right. It's always right. I know when we had Bob Levitas on the show, he's a really big fan of all those sort of things, text expander and anything that can, speed up things and make life easy and always right.
Mm-hmm.
He's a huge advocate for all those things, Quicksilver and what was it, Keyboard Maestro, all of those sort of things.
Yeah, all great tools.
Indeed.
You also mentioned about PDF Pen. Now, this is one of my biggest bugbearers because at the moment I'm having to do a lot of form filling. And I still can't work out for my life why people think in this day and age for the majority of things using Microsoft bloody Word to create a form is any level of acceptability, because you can go in and you'll just break it so easily, and it's my biggest thing. So PDF Pen is something that I've been sort of like looking to dabble with, and you touched on it earlier about coming away from Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Reader. Did you pull away from
Adobe Acrobat? Because I was doing a lot with not just reading PDF, am, and it was more than just reading. It was also, I have to go in and edit a PDF. I have to go in and fill out a form or make a form. Actually, here's a great example of how I was using PDF and Text Expander together when I worked for Mac Observer. Mac Observer has a bunch of freelance writers, so every month I would have to generate the payment report for each writer, send them their report listing everything they had written so they could verify that everything looked right. And then once they verified that, then we'd send their payment out, because you don't want to shortchange anyone. I mean, people work hard. They deserve every dollar, pound that they've made. So what I would do was take the initial report, which generated out as a PDF with everyone's information in it. And then with PDF Pen, I would break that out into individual reports for each person. And then with Text Expander, I had a snippet that was a fill-in-the-blank form pop-up menu combo thing. So I could type my little snippet in Mail. It would give me this little block where I select the email address for the person that I'm sending the report to, and then I have another place where I would just type their name, and then I'd click the little OK button, and I had this email completely done for each person, and their PDF attached to it. I could send it off, and that way I knew it was always accurate. I never had to worry about sending the wrong report to someone or getting their name wrong in the email. And it took a process that would easily be an hour of my time or more, and turned it into a 10-minute project. It's amazing how much time that saved me.
Yeah, I've been in my last job. I had a stab at using Adobe Acrobat to create a form, and it was at this point that, I don't know, people just seem to use Word because it's so entrenched, and it doesn't take a lot to find like something like PDF Pen from Smart Software, because you guys, you've been around for quite a while, haven't you?
PDF Pen has been around for a while, and Smile has been around for a really long time. If you go and look way back, so we're talking pre-OS 10 days, as I recall, my history when you get back far enough, it's hard to remember which version of Mac OS is which, but they started off with PageSender, which was a faxing application, and I refused to get a fax machine back when I had my own consulting business all those years ago. So I got PageSender and put it on the iMac, and had it plugged into the little phone line. And if I ever needed to send or receive a fax, I would just fire up Page Sender and do it. It was a lifesaver back in the day.
Faxes, blimey, that's going back a while. Does anyone still use them?
Yes, unfortunately, a surprisingly large number of industries still rely on faxes.
Yeah.
My colleague at work recently moved house, and the estate agents and the solicitors were constantly ringing him up saying, "Can you fax us such?" I said, "Fax? Where am I going to get a fax? We haven't had a fax in his office in like 10 years." But no, they still, they still insist on having things faxed documents. So,
I know. And the places that say, well, we do it for security reasons. Oh, give me a break. There's literally no security with a fax.
I would love to see companies like that. I'd love to see. I go, can I see your policy and regulations on safe disposal of personal information? It's like I've been going through a whole slew of applying for jobs, and I've sort of got wise now. I don't put my full address or my full email on my CV, because the amount of times I've got, they just sound shady. Oh, can we have a copy of your passport? No. You can freaking not. I don't know. And I go, can I have a copy of yours? Oh, it's company policy. Well, so's mine. And I tried to explain to them, you want my passport to send to you with your website that doesn't even have a padlock on it, and you think that's okay? Or they're two entirely different things. Then I just start getting really narky and go, how can it be different? It's both security. But then I just realise I'm just being a little bit cranky.
When it comes to protecting your personal data, a little bit cranky is an acceptable thing, because that means you're on guard. I mean, I get needing to verify a passport for citizenship, but that's not when you're applying for a job. That's when you've gone through the whole vetting process, and it goes both ways. They vet you to see if you're going to be a good employee. You vet them to see if they're going to be a company that you want to work with. And once you've built that trust and they're ready to hire you, okay, now you can do that verification. But no, people, if someone says, hey, as part of our job application, we need your passport, your driver's license number, and all this other stuff, don't send it.
No,
I'll tell you what, I'll give it to you and the commission for finding me a job if I get the job. And it's like, oh, you've just turned it around on me now. But this does bring us with the whole form and security thing. Like I say, I'm a big advocate of trying to use PDF forms and automate that sort of process. I've used Adobe Acrobat a little. Now, you've got your iPad Pro, haven't you? Have you been using sort of PDF Pen on the Pro, and have you sort of noticed, with it being such a powerhouse, does it sort of shine through in the applications that you're using and the ones that you're representing?
Oh, yeah. It's at the risk of potentially jumping ahead, excuse me, or at least foreshadowing, my iPad Pro, ever since I got the first generation 12.9-inch model when that came out, has been a workhorse production machine for me, which means that I have to work with PDF on a regular basis. And so PDF Pen on the iPad is the way that I go, because it works really well. And it takes that frustration out that I would otherwise experience just trying to deal with PDF content. I mean, if you're just reading a PDF, okay, well, there are plenty of options. I mean, the Books app on iOS will let you read a PDF. But if you need to do more than just read a PDF, then that's where PDF Pen comes in. And being able to use Text Expander as my part of my typing system, just like I do on my Mac, is great. And I love that all my snippets are just everywhere. I never have to think about it. So if I make a new snippet on my iPad, I see it on my Mac. Same thing. Make it on my Mac, it's on my iPad. And since we can have third-party keyboards like virtual keyboards on iOS, of course, I'm using Text Expander there, because all of the same things that I need to type accurately and quickly on my Mac, I need to do it on my iPad too. So why not just have the exact same system both places? So yeah, both help me a lot with with using my iPad as a production machine.
I didn't realize that Text Expander had its own keyboard.
Yes, and it's pretty awesome. So when you're using on an iPad, it knows if you're using the on-screen virtual keyboard or if you're using an external keyboard. So it just works. And then on my iPhone, it's just one of the keyboard options that I have. So I just have that set, and when I'm typing on my iPhone, it's a lot more accurate because I've also disabled the autocorrect, which means that I'm having far few issues with the wrong words appearing in stuff that I type.
There's a lot less ducking going on.
You read my mind.
Well, we might as well stay on the whole iPad thing. It is in the show notes and everything else. So we have got a link here about what reviewers are saying about the new Apple iPad Pro. What's your take on it? And obviously, it's going to be interesting coming from you, having worked at TMO, and I would assume you've been pretty hands-on with all of the Pros. What's your take on it overall?
My take is that there's a lot of people that like to review a product based on their own personal use case and not look at a product based on what it's capable of doing, or looking at it from a more general audience perspective. How's that for a nice way to?
That is the best sitting on the fence I've ever heard.
No, I agree with Jeff there, because I've linked at least two different I think it's two different reviews in the show notes. Obviously they're all over the web everywhere, but I read during the week, I read two basically completely conflicting reviews. One saying this is a fabulous device, it's brilliant, it's, you know, there are some limitations in iOS 12 which Apple need to overcome, maybe in iOS 13, to, you know, allow better multitasking, better access to the file system, that sort of thing.
It's not even as dense as that. It's just the ability of being able to. What I had the other day, I was bouncing a file, or I used a share sheet, and I wanted to save it either on my iPad or on iCloud Drive, and I couldn't create a folder. I had to come out, go into Files, pre-create the folder, go back into the app, then push it out, and then I could do it that way. So that was like, oh God, this just feels tedious.
Yep, and that's an iOS issue, not an iPad or an iPhone issue.
Yeah, but it's the thing with the iPad that, well, looking at the start screen has still got the sort of weird icon spacing, like it's an iPhone screen put onto an iPad. And you would have thought by now they would have just changed it just a little, or do you think that's intentional to keep it so much the same between devices that it breeds familiarity?
I think that's exactly why the iPad home screen looks like the iPhone home screen. It's consistency, it's familiarity, and you don't have to think about how you interact with your applications on an iPhone versus an iPad. You're just thinking about how you interact with your applications, because it's the same in both places. That said, of course, there are all kinds of places Apple can improve iOS, specifically for iPhone and specifically for the iPad. And we've seen improvements over the years. I don't imagine that's going to end, so we will continue to see improvements. But that said, I think iPad Pro is a fantastic production machine, and I'll throw in the caveat, which is exactly the same caveat I'll throw in for an iMac, a MacBook Pro, a Mac Mini. If it's the right tool for the job, it's fantastic. But if you want it to be something that it's not, then you will be disappointed. So for me, the iPad Pro is not a podcasting machine, at least if I have to do the production myself. I prefer to do that on a Mac. But everything else that I do, I can do it really well on my iPad Pro. And sure, there are some things that right now are more efficient for me on my Mac. And that's okay. I mean, there are different tools that I use in different ways. But if I leave my desk and I'm going to be doing serious work, the only time I'll take my Mac instead of my iPad Pro is if I know I'm doing something where the specific task is better suited for the Mac, which means most of the time my laptop sits on my desk as if it's just a desktop.
I am with you on the whole thing of when people review the iPads, they're reviewing it, is it for them? And you see all these clickbait articles go, why I think the new iPad is a failure, why I think the new iPad is a success. I talked about this on the show last week. I think what I would like to see is Apple actually have some pro apps themselves, because if you look on the App Store, there isn't really that much with the word pro in it, or what you would consider a pro app. I mean, it's taken this long for Adobe to sort of put Photoshop on the iPad.
I have a hypothesis
yes, you've
on
got
that. But finish your thing, and then we'll talk about the Photoshop thing.
Yeah, so the Photoshop, well, with the Photoshop thing, it was really brilliant that you could have all those layers and drill down and edit one flower. But you know that actual art piece was created on a desktop thing. So yes, it's nice to be able to do a small edit, but I don't know if it's the right word. The Photoshop demonstration seemed a little bit disingenuous. I would have liked to see proper people create.
I think the truth about that, Mark, is they've come out and they've said we're going to have real Photoshop on the iPad. And the truth is, it's not done. They're not releasing it until 2019. And even then, they said it's going to it's going to have a core set of features which will expand over time. So in other words, it's not done.
Yeah, but it's anyone who uses Photoshop will be able to sort of use the keyboard shortcuts and all that sort of stuff. Real serious Photoshoppers, know all their key bindings and stuff like that. But even so, all right, if you remove Photoshop from the argument, the web itself still really hasn't caught up to the iPad. There's a few banking applications, the government website, council-based websites that when I go onto my phone, I can use them, but I can't interact with them in a sufficient way. But on the iPad, I can interact with them better, but the website's so clunky and so basically in the 90s still, it renders the iPad almost, you sort of like have to go, oh, right, okay, frustration point reached, get up and go back to the Mac.
Yeah, and that's, I don't think, an iPad problem. I think that's a touch interface issue. And it's something that I see people dealing with on Surface tablets, on Android tablets, on Kindles. And it's a problem where the people that are actually developing these sites, they need to catch up with the times because people are using more and more, and in many cases, primarily or exclusively mobile touch interface devices. And all of these government and banking and other stodgy institutions that are running, like you said, their 1990s websites, man, they need to catch up with the times, because the frustration you're having, it's the same frustration I have and the same frustration that my friends using Surface or Android tablets are experiencing as well. And it just sucks.
But the one thing that gets me about that is when Tim put up that slide saying that we've sold more iPads than all the laptops in the world combined, paraphrasing there. Mm-hmm. You would think that the people doing these websites will have stats and should see the demand for them if they were being used in that way. Yes,
and here's another big problem. And my insight on this comes from also being involved quite a bit on the back end of website construction and management. It's amazing how many companies do not look at their stats. They have no idea who's really using their sites. And their design decisions are being made by people that are essentially operating blind because they don't know. And they also don't care sometimes, but they also won't listen to the people that do know, because when they do listen, all they're hearing is, I have to spend more money.
Yeah. Well, it worked perfectly well for the last 10 years. I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah. And it's amazing how often you hear that sort of thing. And then in the next breath, they say, and why is my site not the top hit on Google?
Yeah. Because Google customizes your results for you. That's why. I tried to explain this to a client once, that Google does a lot of personalization based on you. So what he searched for and what I searched for came up with two different things, similar, but different enough. I'll never forget the one time when the site was Essential Mac, in the first year, it was predominantly desktop based. And I think I randomly went in and checked the next year, and it shifted to something like 66% were on a phone, 20% were on a desktop, and the rest were tablet. And over the years, I've seen those sort of figures, the iPhone obviously way ahead, but seeing a tablet use creep up was just really interesting.
Oh, yeah. And I do know people that have either already made the transition to a tablet, whether it's an iPad or a Surface or some Android tablet, as their primary computer, or they have said, when I need to replace my whatever the computer is, this time I'm getting, and then whatever the tablet is.
Yeah, I think as we're going back to the reviewers, as I said, I'd read two almost, you would think they were talking about two completely different products, because one guy basically praised it and said, there were a few flaws in it, but that over time they were either, related to restrictions in iOS or, things that Apple could probably address. And the other guy was, it's got USB-C, but you can't plug in a hard drive. Oh, I bet all your USB sticks are USB-A, so that's useless. And I'm reading it and I'm thinking, what percentage of iPad Pro users actually feel the need that they need to plug in a 1 terabyte hard drive or to stick a USB stick into it? Really? And how many? Besides which, all right, I don't know about USB-C, but for several years now, you can buy those double-ended USB sticks with Lightning on one end and USB-A on the other. So that's sort of, I'm just like, you're not reviewing that in the way, as I read it, I thought you're not reviewing that in the way most people want to use that. You're reviewing it as if it's a laptop. It's not a laptop.
It's not a laptop, but you can, if Apple added in the ability to directly plug in external storage, you could essentially use this like a laptop. Get a USB-C dock hub thing that sits on your desk, and when you sit down at your desk, you plug in your iPad Pro, and now you have your full-size keyboard, you have a big display, you have a microphone plugged in and headphones plugged in. And if the file system gave us direct access to external storage, okay, if you really need to have an external drive with stuff on it, there you go. There are times when I'm traveling, like at a conference or something, and I have some sort of digital asset that I would like to use that's on a USB stick. Okay, it would be nice to have a way to mount that on my iPad and get the files off. I have no problem using a dongle to plug in a USB-A stick into a USB-C port. That's no big deal, and I would be totally fine with that.
But unfortunately, at the moment, iOS doesn't read mass storage, does it? It doesn't. It's not there.
No, it's not there. And for most people, it doesn't matter. For the handful of us that have very specific use cases where it would be really nice to access external storage, all right, yeah, it's frustrating today, but I expect that at some point Apple's going to address that. And I expect the reason that we don't have it today is because they're figuring out what's the most efficient and most secure way to allow us to have external storage connected to our iOS devices. And will that be iPad only, or will it also work on the iPhone?
I'm going to be more cynical than that. I'm going to say they don't do it because they want people to buy their iCloud backup plans. Yeah. So everything can be backed up. It's always on. Let's face it, you're very rarely going to want or need to use an iPad without being on Wi-Fi or connected to cellular.
Yeah, which is great until you need to get a file from someplace where you don't have another way to get that file. But yeah, I'm sure that the fact that we can't connect external drives is playing into at least some degree iCloud subscription sales. Even if I could connect tons of hard drives and thumb drives and stuff to my iPad Pro, I would still be paying for my iCloud subscription, because that is hands down the cheapest data insurance policy for my devices that I can imagine.
Oh yeah, I've had this experience. The other week I sold my original iPad Air, and I was thinking, is everything backed up? Everything backed up? And I thought, well, I haven't used it for a month. I've been using my iPad Pro, and so I sort of felt beyond comfortable going, yep, factory reset, and that's it, blanket, knowing, fairly certain I had everything backed up into the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. Well, how about if I share with you my my app setup on my iPad Pro? And
yes, we always love to hear what people have got installed.
Yes, yeah. We do. We like that, don't we?
And so this started with my first gen iPad Pro, and I do have the new USB-C iPad Pro now. So it didn't change between the two. I have, well, of course, I have PDF Pen Pro and Text Expander both installed, because I just can't function without those. And then for, hold on, actually, I'll wake it up, and then I can really tell you what I have on here.
It's got Face ID, hasn't it? The new iPad. How is it compared to the Face ID on the 10?
Face ID on the iPad is the bomb. It's like, it feels to me, because it's so good and so transparent, that Apple designed Face ID for the iPad and then held it back and figured out how to shoehorn it into the iPhone.
Really?
And I know that's not what they did, or at least I presume that's not what they did, but holy crap. It's like Face ID was designed for the iPad. It's just wonderful. So, all right, here's what I have that I use all the time. If I'm writing, I write in Ulysses on the iPad. And that's because it's just a really solid writing app, and it syncs automatically, so I can have the same documents on my iPhone, my iPad, and my Mac. And then of course, I have Slack on there for all the different communications stuff that I'm doing. I have Trello on there for all the different project management stuff that I'm doing, and I'm using Fantastical to stay on top of my calendars. And I may start playing with BusyCal on here, because you can put BusyCal on iOS now. I have OneNotes for keeping track of different notes and documents. Of course, I have Dropbox installed, because I need to get stuff from Dropbox. I have Google Drive. I have Google Sheets, because I do a lot of stuff with spreadsheets. And let's see, I have Prompt on here, which is a command line interface. So I can connect to servers remotely through the command line and control them, just as if I was using Terminal on my Mac.
That's interesting.
It's fantastic, and it's great, because I have Raspberry Pis in my place also, and they're always doing different little experiments or projects for me, and I'm turning one right now into a cloud server. So for the very initial setup, I really had to plug it into to a monitor and a keyboard so that I could get the initial setup process going. But then once I was done with that, everything else that I've been doing for the setup, I've been doing with Prompt on my iPad. So I'm not even in the same room as the Raspberry Pi. I'm just sitting on my iPad and getting everything set up. If I really, really need to see the screen, I have VNC Viewer installed. So I just VNC into it, and now I've got the Raspbian desktop on my iPad, and I control that too.
Excellent. So I've just brought this. Is that Prompt from Panic Software?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to put that link in the show notes.
It's fantastic. I mean, there's a bunch of terminal apps that you can get for iOS, but Prompt has just been so fantastic for me. So why would I not use it?
Right, indeed.
Yep. And I have Tunnel Bear installed, so I have a good VPN And I have a bunch more stuff installed that I'm just using all the time. But there you go. That's a handful of what I'm using all the time on my iPad Pro, because it's a serious production machine for me, and it works really well.
Excellent. Well, I tell you what, I think, Mark, shall we all go and refresh our beverages while we go over to John in the hardware store? And John has some sub $100 gift type ideas for us this week. So take it away, John.
Nemo's hardware store is particularly fond of a company in Portland, Oregon that handcrafts and hand designs all their products. Real people, real materials, real products, real good. Company is Grove Made, GROVEMADE. Website is grovemade.com. When you go to their website, you can learn about the company and you can see their variety of items. The very first item that I see on the website now is their iPhone cases. We've been designing and building cases in our workshop since 2009. Our method remains unduplicated, ensuring a unique case made with premium materials. They sent me the $99 US walnut iPhone case that is absolutely beautiful, made of real wood. It comes in two components. There's a back plate made of real wood with an adhesive that goes onto your phone, and then there is a bumper-style surround that goes around it with the correct amount of ports and buttons and openings, just like you would need. Now, why do you want to spend $99 on a walnut or any iPhone case that doesn't have full body protection and you can't take deep sea diving or climbing to the top of Mount Everest? If you want to support a beautiful handcrafting company that makes gorgeous products out of real ingredients, you will definitely be a fan of the walnut iPhone case from grovemade.com. You can read about it, and a little movie will tell you how they make it and how it works with all their specifications. Grovemade, in my opinion, is products for the person who has almost everything, because once you have these, you do have everything. The second item from Grovemade that I strongly recommend is their wireless charging pad, and this works great on the iPhone 10 or any of the Qi or Qi chargeable devices. The one they sent me is $79 US, called Wireless Charging Pad Lite. Medium color cork on top of a metal base with an attractive red USB cable sticking out of it. And they also give you the plug to plug it into the wall. And again, it's beautifully handcrafted. It does look great. People walk into my office and say, "What is that thing? Is that a coaster? Do you put your hot coffee on that? Is it a plate warmer? What is it? Why is your iPhone sitting on there?" Well, the reason is I set my iPhone on there and it charges it. Now, I realize there are much less attractive and more utilitarian ones for a lot less money. This one is not only a conversation piece, it is beautifully constructed. If I had to get one of these devices, I would get the charging pad over the case, because the charging pad is magnificent and it will last forever, and you will use it for your next 100 generations of wireless charging. But that walnut iPhone case sure looks great on the iPhone 10. So have a look at grovemade.com. I think you will be as impressed as I am. Final item this week from Nemo's hardware store is a true stocking stuffer called the Odin, O-D-I-N, $23 in the US, in lots of different colors. The company is Up Dog Toys. This is for the four-leggers, UPDOGTOYS, updogtoys.com. It's a treat dispensing dog toy with a modern modular design. Put treats into the flaps and let your dog toss and roll the Odin to get treats out. Attach 2 or more Odin toys to keep the toy fresh and change the way your dog plays with the toy. Again, $23, different colors are available. Our puppy loves this thing. She's so small that the Odin is almost as big as she is, but she just loves rolling this thing around for hours. So go to the video on their website to see the Odin in action. If you have a dog at home, put this Odin in their stocking on the mantle, or however you give your gifts at the holiday season or any season. This will be the best gift you will give to your family and to your family dog. The holiday gift guide is returning next week with more great products from Nemo's hardware store.
thank you, John. And as ever, all of the links are in the show notes. I haven't mentioned it for a while. We do have an Amazon affiliate link, and I believe it's working. So if you want to help us out with a few pennies, click the Amazon affiliate link on the website and then do your shopping, and we will get a little bit of money.
And now is a very good time to do that, because what with Black Friday, Cyber Monday rearing its head in every single affiliate marketing email that I've been getting over the last week, it means that we can generate just enough price. So when we go ahead and buy things like the hosting and all that sort of stuff, I really do search around and try and get, the best deal for performance versus price. And without your generous donations and clicking through on the Amazon links and our lovely, lovely Patreon people, we wouldn't be able to do this show. So a big thank you. And again, any link you see that goes to a product will more than likely go to Amazon. But on the complete opposite scale of that, if you can support local, please shop local. So I've completely contradicted myself.
Well, unfortunately, as it happens this week, John's links are not available via Amazon. Sorry, that's not true. The Updog toy is available from Amazon US, but it's only on Amazon UK by third-party sellers who are asking £69, which is basically three times the price you can. Yes, 3 times the price it is in the US. So
great. I've just done all that work to promote Amazon and just shot us right in the foot. Brilliant work.
Well, there we go.
Welcome to the show, Jeff.
If you want the dog toy, you can buy it from Amazon US, and you can still buy it through our affiliate link. There you go. Anyway, enough of that shenanigans. I thought we'd do a few quick stories. So the one that interested me is the iPhone XR is a pretty good deal in historical terms. And this was on Reddit. It's a chart. It shows basically the launch price of all the iPhones over time, adjusted for inflation. And what it shows is that at the moment, the iPhone XR at $749 compares pretty favourably with the 5S, 6, 6 Plus. In fact, it's pretty favourable all the way up to the 8 Plus. And then when you get the 10, the 10S and the 10S Max, which are all way, way ahead. So, but that's an interesting little chart. Link.
The XR really has slaughtered the eBay market as well, by the way. If you look at the price of iPhone X's, I was contemplating maybe selling a few gadgets to get one, and they were trending around the $6 to $650 mark, and now it's the $6 to $550 mark. So the XR really has sort of taken apart nicely the iPhone X range on eBay. Just as an aside note, what phone have you got there, Jeff?
I have an iPhone 10. I did not upgrade this year because even though I really like what the 10S camera can do, I just had a feeling that I needed to spend my money on something else. And then sure enough, the new iPads came out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, and it's a lot of money for a phone, isn't it? When you've got one that's only a year old.
Yeah, and now granted, up until a week or so ago, having the latest and greatest was just part of my job because I needed to be able to talk intelligently and firsthand about these products. But even still, when it came time to buy the 10S, I was okay holding off this year.
Yep. I mean, I shall be looking to replace my 7.
That's a really good phone.
It is a really good phone.
It is.
But my contract will be coming to an end at the end of the year, so I shall be looking to get an XR, I think, because I can't justify the price of the 10S.
The XR, for what everyone is saying, is basically if you sacrifice the screen, you're pretty much sacrificing nothing else. Yes, the flagship model does slightly outperform, but is it a few $100 worth of outperformance? And generally what everyone is saying, no. It's like if you've got the money, people will always buy the latest and greatest. For those who can't, they're going, you know what? The XR is probably the most comfortable phone you could buy without FOMO.
I think most people wouldn't even notice the difference in the screen. When I went into my local Apple store to look at the XR, I forgot that it doesn't have the OLED screen. Apple's done such a great job with the display on that phone. Where you can see the difference, like easily see the difference, if you know what you're looking for, is if you take the XS and the XR and hold them side by side, or a 10 and the XR and hold them side by side. When you look at text, that's where you can really tell the difference. So the text on the XR is just a little bit less crisp than it is on the 10. But if you're not looking at them side by side, you don't notice.
No,
it's a really nice screen.
There's all these stories circulating all of a sudden that, the XR is going to be a flop and there's warehouses full of unsold ones and they've pulled a load of production lines and all sorts. And do you know what I say to that? Horse feathers. Yeah, there's a Brianism for you. Horse feathers, my friend. The XR, I'll tell you what, this is my view. I think that the XR will sell consistently for probably a good 9 months to quote unquote, average Joes, those who are not totally tech obsessed. It's a reasonable price. It's a really good phone. It's the latest one. And people like me who are waiting for the end of their contract will wait to the end of their contract and then they'll get an XR because I think they feel the price of the 10, and the people who love to have the absolute, top of the range. Those are the people who have made sure that their contract or they're on the upgrade plan or whatever. They're the people who are waiting with their finger hovering over buy on the second the pre-orders come out. So those phones have a massive spike in the first 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then they tail off. Whereas something like the XR, I suspect there'll be an initial hump, but it won't tail off anywhere near as much. That's my view. I think that will continue to sell steadily for 9-10 months.
I think it will sell steadily until Apple decides to get rid of that model.
That is also,
I know people that are like really serious into their tech, and they're choosing to upgrade to the XR instead of the XS or XS Max because the overall feature set is what they want. The screen is really good, and the price is so much better than the other models.
Well, let's face it. If you if you think about it in real terms, you could buy an iPhone XR and the standard iPad for the price of getting an XS.
Yeah, or you could get an XR and an Apple Watch.
Exactly. No, that's a nice deal, isn't it?
That's quite a difference. I've held off buying the latest Apple Watch because I'm sort of thinking there's rumors of new AirPods. And hands down, I think the AirPods are probably going to win my gadget of the year for the second year in a row. Purely because it's the second year in a row my heads haven't been snagged by a stupid cable. Mm-hmm. I will put up with the dunk halfway through a phone call when I know that I've been talking way too long. I will put up with the very rare occasions that, great, I haven't charged my phone case, but stick it on charge for 10 minutes. I'm good to go for a couple of hours. I'm just very excited for the new AirPods.
I'm looking forward to new AirPods as well. And I love my first gen AirPods. My trick, if I know I'm going to be on the phone a lot, I only put one in.
Yep.
And then when that one gives me the doodly-doo that it's about to die, then I pop the other one in.
Yep. That's the same that I'm doing as well. Just coming back to the iPhone for a second, I mean, obviously, Jeff, you've been in the Apple ecosphere for a long, long time. Do you think Apple can sustain and keep growing, pushing out a £1,000 phone every year? Or do you think inevitably it's going to have to be a case of, you know what, it needs to come down a bit just to be sustainable?
This is what the market is. It's not just Apple that's charging $1,000 or £1,000 for smartphones. Yes, there are tons of really cheap smartphones out there, but if you look at the higher end phones, the stuff that's supposed to go seriously head to head with an iPhone, they're all in that same price range. And Samsung beat Apple to that price point. So I think this is just what the market is. And I think the $1,000 phone is going to stick around for quite a while. And I think that Apple is looking at that from a more realistic standpoint, which is if someone's paying $1,000 or more for a phone, they probably aren't that interested in replacing it every year. So Apple is doing their business model or projecting the business model onto that. And I mean, they totally tipped their hand at that when they were talking at their media event. Was it? I can't even remember now. I think it was at the iPad launch event where they talked about supporting products for years and years, and talked about people still using the 5S.
Yeah. Well, they pretty much maintain support for their iDevices for at least 5 years.
Right. And that's really impressive. I mean, being able to put the current, whatever the modern operating system is on a 5-year-old phone and have it run well, that's pretty impressive.
Yep, it is.
The one thing that people sort of do, they don't talk about, is the iPhone 8, because we've done it ourselves. We've gone, oh yeah, the iPhone 7's really, really good, and I've not heard anyone really sort of go back in when they talk about the phone range. The 8 just seems to be that sort of almost forgotten vehicle,
I think the thing with the 8, because my wife has an 8, and it's a really nice phone.
It's a great phone.
It's a really, really good phone, but I think it was eclipsed by the 10. All the focus was on the 10. And unlike the XR, it was just a continuation of the 6, 7, 7S, series. It didn't really look much different from the 6 or the 7. So I don't think it was a bad phone, and I'm pretty sure it sold, in shed loads. It's just, it doesn't get mentioned because it was just eclipsed by the 10, because the 10 was new and different and shiny. So that's where everybody's paying attention. If Ford brought out, two new cars, and one's a new body shape and one's just a revised version of the sedan they've been bringing out for the last 5 years, which one's going to get the press time?
Yeah, it's the new different thing.
Exactly.
And I think you're right. This was a phone that was unfairly forgotten. And when I say forgotten, I know him being hyperbolic there, because it's not a forgotten phone, and it's still something that Apple is selling and showing prominently in their stores. And I mean, it's easy to find on their website. I say that, but let me double check and make sure that's right.
Well, yeah, as far as I'm aware, they're still selling it.
Yeah, if I click on iPhone, there it is. iPhone XS, iPhone XR, iPhone 8, all in a line right there.
Yep. Uncle Tim has promised donations for the latest California wildfires. As we were saying in the break, Jeff, nice to see Apple and Uncle Tim stepping up yet again and doling out some cash, doing the right thing. I think we call that, don't we?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's nice. It's unfortunate that this is something that has to be news, but man, with the various things that have been going on, and especially with the insane fires in California right now, it's
monstrous, aren't they? Unbelievable.
It's horrible, absolutely horrible. Yeah, it's nice to see Apple stepping up and saying, okay, we're part of this community. We're going to throw money at this problem to help.
Also, Elon Musk sort of made an attempt to help as well, didn't he? Saying the Tesla S and the X, or I can't remember what they're called now, have got HEPA filters. So if anybody wants to, if they can help, they will. And I thought that was quite a stylish, little tweet. It did feel a little bit like, oh yes, by the way, the cynic in me was thinking, is that just a bit of a sales ploy thing? But I'm choosing this time to think he did it for the right reasons, because you can't help but like crazy Uncle Musk.
Awesome.
Oh dear. Right.
Dude sent a car into space for no other reason. He sold a flamethrower because he could. That, my friend, is someone that I want on this world.
I have to say, the flamethrower thing, people made a huge fuss about that, but it was a stunt. It's a roofing torch, not a flamethrower.
Don't care, still want one.
Go down to B&Q and get a weed burner then, and just paint it to look like an Elon Musk flamethrower, because it's exactly the same
but
thing.
Then it's the Apple effect. It doesn't have the Tesla logo, so it's just a roof burner. This is a flamethrower.
Right.
Yes, I'm a victim of marketing, but god darn it, if I could get hold of one, I would do.
Okay. Right. Well, Samsung showed off their folding smartphone, or that's how it's been reported all over the web, and it makes me cranky, as Bart would say, because it's not a phone; it's a bloody demo unit of the screen. Thank you very much. That's the end of my rant.
Yes, but that's not clickbaity, is it? Oh, Samsung demonstrate folding screen. Nope. Samsung should demonstrate folding phone. Win.
Yeah. Except Royoli beat them to it with a one, although theirs folds the other way round. I have to say, if it's real, and I'm sure it probably is, incredibly clever, because, I mean, the Royoli one folds around the outside so that you have, a gentle fold, a bending of the screen. The Samsung one appears to literally fold the screen in half, like a piece of paper. Now, how long is that going to stand up before it starts to suffer? How are you going to do that without damaging it? I don't know.
So the number of folds it's supposed to handle before deterioration or starting to break down, it was like 250,000.
Yeah.
So I was on the Big Show the other day, and Ewan Rankin, he did the math, and to condense that down, basically you can use this phone for 3 years straight before you ever have to start worrying about what's going to happen at the bend.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty bloody clever if it works.
If it works, yep.
And as Tim Baharan said when he came on this show as well, we're not sure if a foldable screen device is actually going to be a thing. It's either going to catch on and be the next big thing, or it's going to nosedive like 3D TV and disappear in a swirl of disappointment.
Yeah. The place that I do want to see it succeed is in tablets.
Yes, that was exactly what I said to Tim. Never mind a phone, but wouldn't it be great if if you had an iPad Pro, you could have an iPad Pro that was 20 inches and fold it down to, and fold that in half.
Yeah.
That would be something. And I'm sure most people would fold their tablets a hell of a lot less than you would be opening and closing your phone.
Probably. Yeah. And this would be great for high-end ebook readers. So you open up the ebook reader as if it were a literal paper book. And I think it'd be great there too.
So no, we don't know yet. The other Huawei are also rumored to be presenting a foldable screen device later this year or early next year. So we'll have to see where that goes, really. My other concern about it, of course, is what are you going to cover the screen with? Because at the moment we cover our screens with lovely super hard Gorilla Glass. You're not going to be putting Gorilla Glass on that, are you? Gorilla Glass is great, but one thing it doesn't do is bend.
That's right. And how are you going to put a case on this? Because if you drop a phone with a screen like this, my assumption is that you've just ruined your phone.
So we shall have to see where that one goes. And talking, you were talking about cheap smartphones, Jeff, earlier. Xiaomi are coming to the UK, looking apparently to take on Samsung and Apple. They're bringing their new flagship phone to a physical store in Shepherd's Bush, but they are going to sell their new phone for, I believe, $599. Whether I don't think that that's any threat to Apple. People who buy Apple kit buy Apple kit, but if they can sell a flagship phone at sort of 2/3 to half the price of a Samsung, I think Samsung might have a bit of a problem. Oh no, $499. I tell a lie, it's $499.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's marketing though. It's an unknown product. Get it into the country.
It's not an unknown product, Mark. It's one of the top-selling phones in China. It's the top flagship.
Yeah, but in China, yes, but over here, where we've had the Western press, and we all know that they got heavily slapped by the USA for spying and stuff like that. It's a thing that Samsung do. It's like Samsung spend millions and millions of pounds on having their name everywhere. Like, I went to the petrol station the other day, and on the petrol filler cap, there was an advert for Samsung. It's almost like they're going down the subliminal advertising route. They're just everywhere.
Well, I'd be interested to see what happens with the Xiaomi phones, because reviewers have, although it's only been available in China, others who've got hold of one saying, this would do very well if it came to the US or Europe. And if they're going to sell it for £500, I mean, it's 6.2-inch AMOLED screen, dual 12-megapixel rear camera, Snapdragon 845 processor, running a customized version of Android. Well, don't they all? And it's going to start at $499 in a strategy Xiaomi call honest pricing. So there you go.
That sure sounds like a Samsung competitor to me, not an iPhone competitor.
I don't think it's going to affect the Apple, simply because, the differentiator with Apple is it's Apple. But I think that could put some fairly hefty disruption into the, into the flagship market of Android phones in the UK. Just a snippet. This one is Mac Jim might have sent us this one in. AI news anchor makes his debut in China from NPR. Have either of you boys seen this?
No.
I have. And it's the graphics for this AI news anchor are done so well that if you don't know, it would be easy to assume that it's just some guy. And they've done pretty good with the voice inflections. So it sounds like a news anchor that needed to have one more cup of coffee before going on the air. But yeah, it comes across as very human, which I find to be just fascinating, because
it's quite you say that about the he sounds like he could have done with one more cup of coffee, but of course he is an AI modeling a Chinese person speaking English.
Yes, so it may be that his, I'll call it a performance, is so good that it's actually completely accurate for someone that would be in that position.
He's also apparently modeled on a real Chinese news anchor person. And as well, there is apparently also a Chinese speaking AI news anchor as well. So I guess if you actually spoke, Cantonese or Mandarin, I don't know what you're speaking in, you'd probably be able to tell whether they were a bit sluggish or not. As I don't speak any Chinese languages, I can't help you out with that one. Perhaps Weihan can. Perhaps we'll get Weihan to tell us.
Totally do that.
I found that interesting. Yes, it's a long way from max headroom. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It's a long way from max headroom indeed. And that's pretty much it. I've got a couple of worth of chirps here. One's the prompt 2, Jeff, that you were talking about earlier. And the other one is the Throwboy iconic Apple pillows. They're not cheap, I have to say. They come into about $40 a piece. But there's a set of pillows. You can have an Apple II computer. You can have the 1984 Mac. You can have a 1998 iMac. You can have an original white iPod, an original iPhone, and then there's a Finder icon and the spinning wheel of death, all available as plushy cushions. They start from about $25 and they go up to, $40. So there you go. A little bit pricey, but might be a gift for the Apple lover in your life, I suppose. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up then, shall we, boys? Jeff, would you like to do the bit where you tell everybody where you can be found?
I can totally do that. You can find me over at textexpander.com. And I have to say, working with Smile is pretty cool. So textexpander.com. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Jay Gamet, both places. And wow, it's great to be back on with you guys. You're so much fun.
Brilliant. Cheers. That's praise indeed from someone who's been in the industry and with such a rich background as yourself.
Oh, you guys rock.
If you want to get hold of me, I'm on at Ocean Speed. I do tweet occasionally at Essential Apple. I keep threatening to do my second YouTube video, but I haven't quite got there. I did actually go out today and try and shoot some B-roll footage, but the app seemed steadfastly to acknowledge where I was. So I'm going to have to go out yet again and try and finish this blinking video. And I've also done a Wish.com haul, because that seems to be the popular thing that people do on the internet these days. And of course, every now and again at essentialapple.com, go there. I am writing a piece about the demise of Dragon Dictate, because it still rankles me a little bit.
Okay. I am, of course, on the Twitters as at Serenak. That's Serenak. And that's it, I think. So,
Yep.
Goodbye. Thank you for coming on, Jeff. And goodbye, everybody.
Cheerio.
You've been listening to the Essential Apple podcast, and I'd like to say if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, feel free to go over to the website essentialapple.com and you will find links to both Patreon and the Pinecast Tips Jar, where you can make a donation towards the costs of the show, or even if you're really keen, you could set up a recurring payment. And thank you very, very much to all the people who already do support us. We really do appreciate you very much indeed. This show is, of course, part of the My Mac podcasting network, where you can find a variety of other shows like the My Mac podcast with Guy and Gaz, the G-Men, Tech Fan with Tim and David, the Nintendo Club podcast, the geekiest show ever, the Three Geeky Ladies, Bart Bouchot's and his wonderful Let's Talk Apple, and possibly some more that I've forgotten. So why not go over to mymac.com, take a look at the available podcasts, and take a listen.
Amazon, Google, Apple, Android, iOS, Alexa, Siri, technology, sci-fi, video games, tablets, computers, flash drives, toys, weather, and general silliness. Geekiest show ever, every week on the My Mac Podcasting Network.
Well, and I'm going to make bison chili for dinner. It's cold and snowy, so I need to get all of that into the slow cooker. So apparently we're all off to the kitchen.
See,
we are indeed.
We
all
could
off
have
to
done
the
this.
kitchen.
All right, Jeff, next time you're on, we're going to do a slow cooker episode, because I love my slow cooker.
Oh, we could do a whole episode on slow cooker.
We will make that happen. That might actually be the Christmas special.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
So Apple and Amazon strike a deal to directly sell more product.
Yeah, it's
because it's from what I read, that all sounds very nice until you realise they're probably going to use it as a way to squeeze out third-party sellers.
Well, yeah, I can see where this would impact a lot of the third-party sellers. Although I don't expect that you're going to see discounts that compete with third-party resellers.
No,
this is going to be stuff where you're paying Apple's list price for products. So it's definitely a convenience thing. But for those people that are looking for a way to buy their Apple products without having to pay quite as much, they're still going to be looking other places. Yeah. And at least here in the United States, with the way sales tax laws work, a lot of these third-party resellers won't charge you sales tax because of where you live. And with Amazon, you're always going to be paying the sales tax. So, yeah, I can see where this could have an impact on some of the third-party resellers. But for those people that are looking for those deals, they're still going to be going to those places.
I think also it's probably, I suspect what they're looking at it to do is possibly to shut down a lot of these really cheap Chinese white label associated products.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, I can see that.
Cheapo lightning cables, for example,
Yep.
Although in my experience, it doesn't matter how much you pay for your lightning cables. I've bought lightning cables that cost me 99 pence and were brilliant. And I've had lightning cables I've paid £10, £11 for, and they've lasted a week.
Yeah.
Price is no indication of quality with bloody lightning cables.
Yeah, for me, it's about the company that's making the cable.
The best ones I've had recently came from a company, what were they called? Something like True Idea, something like that. And they were black cables.
Uh-huh.
With like a spring, and you know where the sort of the reinforcement piece is at the end, next to the plugs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had rather than just a plastic piece, they had a metal spring it's about 1.25 inches long, which is supposed to prevent the ends from getting kinked. And
I have done that myself.
Yeah, I've seen people do it with pen springs.
Take apart a pen, pull that spring out. Yep.
But these are like extra tightly wound, so they're more like
like really a coil.
Springy. Yeah, so they're really springy, and they're supposed to be. I bought a pack of, I think they were 10 for £10. Crazy, stupid cheap. And they were allegedly guaranteed for a year, but there we go. And they've been really good. They're really, really good. The only one that's broken, I think, it was one that my daughter managed to sleep on. So I don't think that constitutes fair use, really. Because you bent it right over, laid on it so that the wire was bent over 180 degrees. It's like, no, I think that's I'm not going to blame the cable for that.
Yeah. The cables that I've been buying that I've been having really good luck with are the ones from Radtech.
All right, yeah.
That they have a it's like a braided material, like a fabric.
Oh yeah.
Over the cable, where the cable goes into the connectors, it's reinforced. And the place where I would kill cables consistently.
Oh yeah,
was in my car.
Yeah.
And I've had one of these in my car for 2 years, and it still looks brand new. So when I need replacement cables, I just buy one from Radtech. I should look and see if they have a straight through USB-C cable now that I have the new iPad Pro.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, let's have a quick look. We see. What does the duck tell me?
What search engine do you use, Jeff?
Well, I'm sorry. I was reading on Radtech's website and completely missed what you just said.
Oh, it's okay. No one ever really listens to what I've got to say anyway. It's why the listening figures always plummet whenever I'm on the show. It's like Simon had a good run. I come on the show as the ex-host of the show, and it's all tailed off into oblivion again. Oh, I was going to say, what search engine are you using these days, Jeff?
Oh, I'm still using Google.
What a do.
Oh, yeah.
I always find it funny. You get people who use a VPN, but then sometimes they still use Google.
And, well, see, the thing is, when you're doing searches because you need to see what other people are seeing, you have to use Google for that.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
If I'm just doing my own thing, a lot of times I'll use DuckDuckGo, even though I may not always get the results that I need. DuckDuckGo is pretty good.
Yep,
it's made big strides. Tell you what, I did try the other week just for a laugh. I tried to use Bing.
Oh, you're some sort of a masochist.
Yep. I tried to use Bing. I gave it because Microsoft are going, if you do searches with us, you earn points, and points can be turned into prizes. It's a shame that I'd have to do about a bajillion searches from now into eternity just to be able to afford a blooming Skype credit voucher. But I thought, nope, I'll give it a go. They're pushing it hard. Useless. Absolutely useless.
It looks like you're out of luck, Jeff. There's no USB-C on there at the minute, is there?
There is not.
USB-A to USB Mini, USB-A to USB Micro B.
Yep, they have an extension cable for USB-A. Yeah.
No, you're out of luck there at the minute.
I am. Oh, tea. That's what you meant by a refreshment.
Oh yes, we all like a good brew here in the UK.
I was over in the UK several weeks ago, and it was my first time. And I have a new appreciation. I've always been a tea drinker, but man, I have a new appreciation for tea now because
I was sorry. Go on, Jeff.
It's
go on.
just, oh my God, it just made such a difference. I know part of it is because I was at sea level, so water boiled at the right temperature. And where I live, I'm more than a mile above sea level. So,
blimey.
So water where I am boils on the Fahrenheit scale 6 degrees lower than it does at sea level.
No, that's no good for the tea, Jeff. That's no good for the tea. It's got to be 100 because it's got to do its magic with things. I've as my leaving present from work, I bought some Arabian tea bags. Absolutely lovely. And I went to the shop the other day and I bought some cheapy ones, and it's like drinking dust. I'm just trying to get through them as quick as possible so I can go back and get the good stuff.
No, I get it. It's when I was first learning tea years ago, I thought all tea was just American Lipton tea.
Oh Lord, that's not tea. That's
no. I mean, it doesn't even taste like tea, and yeah, I don't even know what kind of tea it's supposed to be. I mean, it's black tea, but what is it? Because black tea doesn't tell you what the tea really is.
No, it doesn't tell you anything whatsoever.
Yeah, it's basically like saying, like here in the UK, you can get mince, which is minced meat, but you can't call it minced beef because it doesn't have 5% meat in it. So you can call it mince. It's like another example is cheese slices. Well, to call it cheese slices, it has to have a certain amount of cheese in it. So they call them triangles or yellow triangles because it looks like cheese and it's the same colour as cheese, but you can't call it cheese because it doesn't have something like 10% cheese in it or something.
Yeah, and here that would be a cheese product.
Yeah, well, the cheese slices, quote unquote, that he's talking about are the sort of cheese you get in burgers at McDonald's.
Oh,
Kraft. Another good one is Kraft slices.
Yeah, yeah, Kraft
what is a Kraft
slices.
slice?
They have those here. Yeah. I have a dairy allergy, so yeah. I luckily get to avoid that really crappy stuff like that. Yeah, you can go buy Kraft slices, and then in small print it says cheese product.
Yeah,
so they don't even highlight cheese in the name.
And this is what we do to our guests with such grandeur as Jeff. We get them on, we talk about tea and cheese.
No, at least it's not a cheese truck.
We need to rethink the schedule.
Right.
This has been the Essential Apple Podcast. Goodbye and thank you for listening.